One majority of states in Nigeria have conducted the governorship elections. Bayelsa State will be preparing for its own in November 2023. The incumbent governor, Douye Diri, has emerged winner of the People's Democratic Party (PDP) governorship primary in the state to contest the November 11 governorship election. Diri, who was the sole aspirant, polled a total of 305 yes votes from the delegates to emerge as the party's candidate. He's warning the electorate against voting in desperate politicians. Arise correspondent Uvieteme George reports.
One after another, delegates from the 8 local government areas file out to participate in this elective state delegates congress, and of course to get somebody to fly the ticket of the People's Democratic Party and the November governorship election. But this could be likened to a football match with the results already known. Governor Douye Diri, seated comfortably over there, is coasting home as the sole candidate of the People's Democratic Party for the November governorship election. The Osun State Governor, Ademola Adeleke, supervises the electoral process in the capacity of chairman of the Bayelsa State PDP Governorship Electoral Panel in an exercise where 323 delegates are accredited. At the end, 305 delegates cast their votes for Governor Douye Diri, giving strength to a one-way traffic of a predictable outcome. Sorting and counting of ballots are concluded for the official declaration of the winner.
I hereby declare Senator Douye Diri as the winner of the election, and therefore return him as the candidate of the PDP in the November 2023 election. Congratulations.
I do accept your nomination as the candidates of our great party, the People's Democratic Party. We have to be vigilant and remember that there are those whose morbid ambition is to rule at all costs. And their ambition is so unmitigated that they are prepared to kill, they are prepared to maim, they are prepared to destroy lives and properties. Therefore, we all must be prepared to ensure that people like that will never be enthroned.
Some elders of the PDP in Bayelsa State are optimistic of a good outing at the November 11 governorship poll, with Douye Diri leading the charge.
It will be an uphill task for anybody to challenge him for election. Now that the PDP is fully united, we're going as one family.
Believe you me, PDP is a party to beat in that election. I don't see any party surpassing it. I thank the governor sincerely for bringing this unity.
At the time we contested with him, we were 21. Now he's the sole candidate to show that he's been doing well and has been given the right of first refusal. And now we know that all of us are behind him. And so we are sure he's going to win because his handwork is there everywhere.
So far, so good. Let me see you. Let me see you.
Uvieteme George, Arise News.
As the governor seeks re-election in November, he will be banking on the achievements in his first term to woo the electorate. Joining us on this show this morning, right now, to discuss his nomination as a sole aspirant for the first time in the state's People's Democratic Party and his eventual likely emergence as the governorship candidate is Senator Douye Diri, Governor of Bayelsa State. Welcome to the morning show, Governor Diri. Good to have you on the program.
Thank you, Dr. Abati.
Well, good morning.
For having me.
Yesterday we had Udengs Eradiri here, who is aspiring to be the governorship candidate of the Labour Party in Bayelsa State. And I asked him what are his hopes against a governor who described himself as a miracle governor, and that who has also been chosen as a sole aspirant candidate for the People's Democratic Party in Bayelsa State, which incidentally seems to be a PDP state. And he said, well, there's nothing like a miracle, and that you should stop going about saying you are a miracle governor. And in any case, since you got into that position, you've not performed any miracles. And that the Labour Party is determined, if he emerges as the candidate of his party, to make sure that you are shown the way out of the government house in Yenagoa. What's your response to this? And what miracle did you perform to become the sole aspirant and the man unanimously chosen by delegates?
I really don't like responding to those who do not see, even when their eyes are opened, when their ears are opened. Dr. Abati, yes, I'm described as miracle governor across the globe. Not just me calling myself miracle governor. And for those of us who believe in faith, and the way I emerged as governor of Bayelsa State, there is nothing wrong if by my faith I describe myself as a miracle governor, and every other person describes me as a miracle governor. That should not anger my brother, my younger brother, Udengs Eradiri. Miracles happen. Remember, somebody was taking a salute. Remember, it was few hours towards swearing in. Remember that the government at the center was of same party. And so if eventually I became the governor of Bayelsa State, what's the point? Anybody trying to argue about miracles or no miracles? He doesn't believe in it. I believe in it. And so many others believe in it. We believe in natural sequences. We also believe in God's own intervention, God's own way of doing things. And I believe that where our own efforts stopped as human beings, God took over from there. So rightly, I'm described as a miracle governor, nothing less than that. Thank you.
No, but you went beyond, the circumstances of your emergence as governor and said, even as a sitting governor in the last more than 3 years, that you've not performed any miracle, that many of your projects are even cited in the wrong places in the state, showing a lack of understanding of the needs of the people.
Dr. Abati, you know those who are power hungry and those who, most of them who come to oppose, they will always say issues, rather than looking at issues, they will come from the viewpoint of attack. And like I said, there are some who have eyes, but like the dumb gods, they cannot see. They have ears, but their ears are deaf. In Bayelsa State, if you come to Bayelsa State today, the number one thing that will attract your attention is the peace, the security, the serenity of the state, which has eluded the state for quite some time. I also remember that the same Udengs Eradiri, in one of his programs, acknowledged the fact that the current government has brought about some peace in the state, that there is no longer government rascality in Bayelsa State. And that, for me, that is very positive of the Labour Party candidate, or aspirant rather. He's not yet a candidate. Aside from that, virtually all of our projects, which one is equaling? Technical colleges that we are building across the state. We are having a paradigm shift in our education policy from paper qualification to skills acquisition. Is that what is misplaced? Is it querying our roads, our road infrastructure, the bridges that we are constructing? Is it querying our Bayelsa Health Insurance Scheme, the new Bayelsa Health Insurance Scheme that now houses a scheme that was there before I took over? Is it querying the completed new transport terminal at Igbogene? Is that what that is misplaced? Is it querying the completed new dual carriageway from the ecumenical center to the airport road? Is that what is misplaced? Is he querying the completion of the Sagbama-Ekeremo road that hitherto our people were even traveling from Delta State? Is that what is misplaced? Is he querying the completion of the judges' quarters who are about to pack into their quarters? Is that what is misplaced? Dr. Abati, I really don't understand some of these people who want power at all costs. And they come, and rather than addressing issues, they will first of all throw tantrums. And I am not here for that. I'm here to discuss issues. I'm here to talk about our state and the way we have applied the few little resources to achieve what we have achieved. Is he also querying the Nembe Brass Road that has been abandoned? Udengs Eradiri has held several offices in Bayelsa State. And if there is anybody who also should be queried, I think that he should be one of them. In all the offices that he held as Commissioner for Environment, we still have flood and erosion. And I overheard him talking about flood and erosion. What did he do as Commissioner for Environment to stop flood and erosion? And so I am not here to throw back at him. Dr. Abati, I want to look at issues. Our government is moving the state forward. We are looking at uniting our people. We have become too fragmented. We have become too factionalized. And we are trying our best to unite our people and prepare the minds of our people towards development, towards living in peace. And that's exactly what we are doing.
Well, thank you very much, Senator Douye Diri, and congratulations again on clinching your party's ticket as their candidate for the governorship elections. Now, at your third year Thanksgiving, you had said that the testimonies of the good work you'd done in Bayelsa would be enough to get the people to vote for you for a second term. And as you have already highlighted, some of which are the construction of roads or infrastructure development. However, some people would look at the economy of Bayelsa and say that it hasn't quite improved since you became governor of Bayelsa. Just a few stats in terms of information. Yesterday, I'd asked Mr. Eradiri about the unemployment rate in Bayelsa. At the last statistics data provided by the National Bureau of Statistics, it was at over 32%. And then Bayelsa is currently the state that draws most of its allocation from FAC. So in terms of internally generated revenue, it's only at about 8%. Therefore, there's no stimulation for the Bayelsa economy to even provide an environment for businesses to thrive and for your young people to have access to jobs. I'd like to get your thoughts, your view on this, or what you have done in this regard as governor.
Well, thank you. You see, my take on these issues are that first, everybody believes that Bayelsa State is dependent on federal allocation. And ask yourself where the federal allocation is coming from. Where are these resources that are being allocated to every other state comes from? Bayelsa State is the goose that lays the golden egg. And at the end of the day, what belongs to us has been taken away and expropriated. And then you turn around to say, oh, the internally generated revenue of the state is very low. Let us operate a proper federalism and ensure that we have a fiscal federalism and see whether our internally generated revenue will be that low. That's one. Again, for us in terms of employment, we have seen that everybody is looking at government employment, and that is not good enough. The government today have had some form of disguised unemployment in the state, because there are a lot of people who truly are not employed but looking towards government. But as we came in, we have been addressing a lot of that. We have decided to look into the private sector and encourage our people to go into the private sector. That way, monthly, we are setting aside huge sums of money to support our own small and medium-term entrepreneurs across the state, in all the wards, in all the local government areas. And we believe that they can be self-employed and contribute to the economy of our state. And as we came in, we have also encouraged sports to the roof. That today, a lot of our young people are interested in sports development and in developing their skills. We have equally ensured that in terms of security, we established the Community Safety Corps, which is headed by a retired Brigadier General. And in that corps today, we have over 600 Bayelsa youths. And going forward, we will even have more than that. So we are tackling most of these issues, but not from the perspective that some of them would have expected. We don't want to go into employing people into government and we begin to have disguised unemployment. We want to encourage our youths, we want to encourage our women into going into private enterprises and become employers of labor. We want to establish technical colleges that will enable our youths to become employers of labor. So those are the policies that we are putting in place, and I'm sure that some of them who have eyes are actually not seeing what we are doing in Bayelsa State.
Well, Governor Diri, if we go by available statistics, Bayelsa is one of those states heavily dependent on federal government allocation. IGR in Bayelsa State is just a little over 8%. And in terms of the ease of doing business, yes, Bayelsa is number 24. In fact, the state dropped from number 10 to 24. What efforts have you been making to redress this situation? And what do you intend to do in terms of revenue generation? Should you get a second term in office? More so, as even now in Washington, D.C., we're being told that a major problem is revenue in Nigeria, and that Nigeria, both at the national and subnational level, we need to address the issue of revenue generation.
Well, for me, the internally generated revenue of Bayelsa State, as I said earlier, is that most of what should have been our own internally generated revenue has been taken away from us and expropriated. But that aside, we are equally looking at it and trying our best in terms of agriculture, because we believe that Bayelsa is the hub of fishing in Nigeria. And I believe the fish belt is in Nigeria. So we, from inception of this administration, we have encouraged a lot of our people to go into it. And you remember I led a team going to Greece with some federal government support with the AAGGS. And that is still ongoing. I believe that before even the end of this first tenure, that will come on stream. And that means that we will have still more youths to be employed. From that EAGS program alone, we're expecting about 2,000 youths to be employed. From that program, we're also expecting that if it is functional, we will have some form of internal revenue. But beyond that, we're also looking at an economic summit of the states. We have had our health summit, we have had our education summit, and right now, what we are looking at for and planning is the economic summit. Because of all of this, we want to see how we can put things in proper perspective and get our economic policies right. So before the end of this first term of our administration, we will have our economic summit, and going forward, we believe that we'll be able to address some of these issues of revenue generation.
All right, thank you for your assurances, Governor Diri. Another area I'd like you to please speak to is with regards to the roads internally. So you talk about infrastructural development, but by all sense are saying that if you look at Yenagoa, for instance, the roads are almost not pliable. So it's in need of a total overhaul. What are you going to do about this, and why wasn't this addressed in the last 3 years of your tenure? Beyond that, you also talk about education and what you've done in the area of education, but there's still a challenge with the teacher-to-pupil ratio in the primary and secondary schools in Bayelsa. How are you, number one is because you're current governor, so why wasn't this addressed during your tenure, and what are you looking to do perhaps before the end of this tenure and ahead of the second tenure if you do emerge as governor again?
Thank you, my dear sister. Well, I think that the first issue, any Bayelsan who says that our roads are not pliable is not a Bayelsan. I don't think he's in these states. I'm sure he's one of those who want power at all costs, and they have come there to tell you blatant lies. You need to come to the states. And I'm sure my press people have been putting our works, particularly in Yenagoa. In Yenagoa, we have just constructed a dual carriageway under this administration. We are to commission that road in our 3 years in office. Unfortunately, certain developments happened and we were unable to commission it. But we will still commission that road. We have also been able to construct concrete roads in hitherto just at roads, in streets within Bayelsa. And a lot of these concrete roads are in Yenagoa. We have constructed the road and commissioned part of it from Igbogene to AIT, which is like a ring road. And I'm seeing that even on your screen. You know, the first part is commissioned. The next part will be commissioned this year. And so, for anybody who is in Yenagoa and comes over to your studios to let you know that in Bayelsa State, you don't have good roads, that the roads are not pliable. I think those are the people I describe as those who have eyes but do not see, those who have ears but will never hear. So I am sure that you can come or you can call your correspondent here, Ovieteme, and he will let you know of the state of our roads in Bayelsa and what the current government has put in so much in terms of road infrastructure construction. And so that one is an outright white lie for anyone from Bayelsa to say that this government has not addressed the issues of road construction and our roads in Yenagoa are not pliable. Your second question, please, let me have that again.
That's on teacher-student ratio, particularly in primary and secondary schools.
Okay, yeah, thank you. Thank you. Yes, we are not unaware of that, and as I said, we are looking at that again to see the areas of need. In fact, from the inception of this government, what we did was to look at our areas of need. We cannot continue to employ and, as I said, begin to have disguised unemployment. So we want to see the areas where we can, and committees were set up, reports have been received. So we are working on that, and we will ensure that in areas, not only in the teacher-pupil ratio, we are even looking at the health department, where we are lacking nurses, we are lacking doctors. And so we are going to address most of those issues going forward.
Well, Governor, I mean, you talked about the opposition when we started this conversation. I want to go back to that same issue about the opposition. The APC, Bayelsa, will be holding its own primaries tomorrow, April 14. Yes, they may have been having internal wranglings, expectedly, but Chief David Lyon is part of that process, and he's saying that he's going to come back to the race to get his mandate back, and that there will be campaigns, according to his supporters, from door to door, woman to woman, man to man. So are you scared? And is the PDP as united as some of your supporters are projecting? So the Lion is coming back. Are you scared in case he is chosen tomorrow by the APC?
Dr. Abati, I am not scared, neither is my party scared. Dr. Abati, our programs, our projects, our policies will speak for us. We have done for 3 years what some previous administrations could not do for 5 years that they were in power in this same state. So we are ready, prepared, waiting for whoever that will emerge from the opposition. But like I keep saying, let us not have anti-democratic people who, rather than coming to, work on the foundation that we have already laid for democracy in this state, will come to destroy that foundation. We can no longer fester on militancy. We can no longer fester on rigging of elections. And that is what I keep harping on. We have all the informations, formal, most of them informally, that when they emerge from the opposition, no, we are going to take that governorship by force. We are in a democracy. You cannot take by force. It is the people that will decide for you. It will be the people that will give you power. And above all, power comes from God. And that is why for those of us who believe in God, we always have the faith that what we have done, and God being on our side, we are prepared and waiting for the other party from the opposition, whoever they will bring forth. But let me assure you that my party is far, far, far more united than when we emerged in 2019. If you like, go on in the streets of Yenagoa to interview members of the PDP. They will certainly let you know that the PDP is becoming more united. On daily basis, we are receiving those who are decamping from the opposition party to PDP. And we are not just making noise about it. We want to actually integrate ourselves and ensure that on ground here, nobody can beat the PDP in Bayelsa State. Look at the last elections, Dr. Abati. The presidential election, PDP was #1 in Bayelsa, followed by not even the main opposition party in Bayelsa. That speaks volumes. The next party that became #2 was Labour Party. The opposition APC came a distant third. Then the National Assembly elections. of that same day, the PDP got all the 3 senatorial seats, including a sitting senator of the APC that lost to the PDP. The PDP cleared out of the 5 House of Representative seats, 4, including again another sitting member of the APC, lost to the PDP. Now the remaining one is going for a rerun on the 15th, and we are very sure that that again will be cleared by the PDP. The House of Assembly, the PDP has a comfortable 2/3 majority. And so who is deceiving who here? The PDP is on ground. That's all I can tell you. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Governor. So I just want to go back to that question on the roads. So in terms of the roads you talked about, because you said that they were lined, but some people have highlighted Erekpa Road, Saptex Road, Samfino Road. They've looked at PDP Road, Okaka Road as some of the internal road network in Bayelsa that they believe you haven't addressed. And so just to mention that, so that we're able to identify the specific areas that have big challenges, and this has been for a number of years, and so they felt your administration ought to have dealt with that. Then in responding to that, I'd also want to ask you, in the reports by Ovieteme George, we saw an interview where someone had said, one of the delegates at the primaries had said that there were 21 contenders initially for the primary ticket of the PDP, but you then became the consensus candidate where you ran unopposed. How did that happen? How were you able to convince the other 20 that you were the right man and for all of them to step aside?
Okay, let me take from your last question. I think there is a mixture there. There is a misunderstanding there. What the person that was interviewed by Ovieteme George was telling you was that in 2019 elections, we were 21. In 2019 elections, we were 21 aspirants. And out of all of us, at the end of the primaries, that was a very hotly contested primaries emerged in 2019. That's what Benson Agadaga, who is now the senator-elect from the Eastern Senatorial District, was telling Ovieteme George. Not in this particular primaries where I am the sole candidate. Our party has a culture. The culture in our party is that a sitting governor will have the right of first refusal. And if the governor is not prepared to do a second term, that is when it is opened up for primaries by everybody. However, even at that, in all of the elections, there has always been contenders because you cannot stop anybody from going to buy forms. So for my case, it is the first time in Bayelsa State that a sitting governor became the sole candidate. No other person went there to purchase forms. No other person. And the credit goes for me to the party, not to me as a person. It goes to the party, and it also speaks volumes of the way we are trying to bring about cohesiveness in the party. And so there was that mixture. The 21 persons were not in these current PDP primaries. That was in 2019 PDP primaries. In these primaries, no PDP member went to the national to purchase forms. And I like to use this opportunity to appreciate all of our PDP leaders across the states. It's not as if people cannot, but I think they just saw that, look, this government is doing well in terms of bringing our party together. And this government is doing well in terms of even human and infrastructural development. And we are happy that our people has given us that vote of confidence to ensure that we had a primaries that was more or less an affirmation and a confirmative primaries. So that was what happened. Then to your first question about the roads, the few roads that you mentioned. On assumption of office, there were about 50 roads that were impassable in Yenagoa. And the first thing that this government did was to ensure that most of those roads were either reconstructed or maintained. And we have done that. So there is no way you can have, my dear sister, a perfect situation. Yes, we may have some pockets of one or two few of such roads, but we touched virtually all of those roads that we saw in dilapidated conditions. And in addition, we have also constructed concrete roads that are over 30, which were earth roads in Yenagoa City. I'm not even talking about the other concrete roads in other local government areas. So, like the lizard that falls from the Iroko tree, we can actually say we have done well under the 3 years that we have taken over the ship of leadership in Bayelsa State.
Well, the Agama lizard says, if nobody will praise me, I will praise myself. But let me go back to what you said earlier on about job creation. The working age population of Bayelsa, according to available statistics, maybe by 2020, will be about 1.4 million. But you were talking about creating about 2,000 jobs. We need clarification on that. And what kinds of jobs are those? Where? And 2,000. Some people say 2,000 jobs only. That would seem to be a small number. That's why I'm asking for a clarification.
Oh, thank you. I just made reference to a particular one, one of those that we have already started from the moment we took over. That has to do with agriculture. It has to do with fishing. It has to do with boat building. So that's just one segment of it. I think what I did was like giving an example of what the government is doing in terms of job creation and engaging our youths. So that was an example. It's not as if we are going to create only 2,000 jobs. No, that's not what I meant. We are talking about just one sector of it, which is the fishing and boat building bit of it that we are partnering and collaborating with some international companies and the federal government to bring up here in Bayelsa State. So that was just one example that I gave.
All right. Well, Governor, you talked about earlier on, referring to Mr. Udengs, whom you said was former Commissioner of Environment, that what did he do to address the flood? But what people would say is that you are the governor of Bayelsa State, so the buck stops with you, and he was your appointee, or he was an appointee as opposed to the, to the governor of the state. What would be your response? I mean, last year, Bayelsa suffered one of the most devastating effects of flooding in recent times, and still some people are still living with the impact of the flood. What is the plan of your administration to manage flood? Some people have talked about a proper drainage system, on streets, houses built on drainage system and controlling that. How best would you deal with it?
Thank you, my dear sister. Well, for Udengs, like I said, I don't want to respond to those kind of haphazard and ill-fated criticisms. I only try to bring up the fact that he mentioned certain issues that he himself was at the seat to address whilst he was in government. He didn't work with me. He worked with the immediate past governor in those capacities. But going forward, to address your question, we suffered the flood in Nigeria. Bayelsa was #1. If you remember, there was this issue of Bayelsa not even being among the 10 most flooded states, and the reaction from Bayelsa, the reaction from Nigerians. And so up till now, we are suffering the 2022 flood. Virtually all the roads that were impacted by that flood, the state government is now carrying out repairs and reconstruction of all of those roads that were impacted by the 2022 flood. And beyond that, because we want to have a holistic approach to the issue of flood and erosion, I promised that I was going to set up an agency that will deal with flood and erosion. And in our budget last year, we also made provisions for flood and erosion. So as we speak, just 2 weeks ago, we have constituted the agency that will address the issues of flood and erosion. And that agency is to commence work immediately to look at the technical approach. We don't want to just begin to use the normal way of, okay, let's construct this, let's construct that. So that agency is going to come up with a holistic data and research on how we will approach this flood. Meanwhile, we will also have a temporary way, measures that the agency will also recommend to government that we will do even now before the next the forthcoming rainy season. You know that the rains have almost started here in Bayelsa, and the peak of it is by October and thereabout. So we are not oblivious of that. We are doing our best. That agency has started work, and we are sure that governments will provide from the very meager resources that we have to ensure that our people do not go through what we went through in 2022.
Anyway, Governor, just before we go, some of my friends have been saying being governor must be quite an exciting thing, that Governor Diri, with his Burberry designer shirt and his good water chain, and we saw you also dancing with Governor Adeleke. Is it truly an exciting assignment, as some people are saying?
There was no designer shirt, Dr. Batty.
This looks
that
like
was
Burberry.
just a fabric.
This looks like designer Burberry.
No, sir.
And that chain, I know it. That's good water.
No, Dr. Batty.
No,
Dr. Batty. It is the same fabric that I'm wearing today, even in your interview. There is no designer there. You saw me in my traditional attire of just an ordinary fabric, and with my traditional hat, and with my traditional walking stick. So there was no designer there. But I enjoyed that moment. You know, Adeleke is known all over the country as the dancing senator, and now the dancing governor. So I try to see if I can challenge him, but albeit I cannot challenge Senator Adeleke.
Thank you very much, Governor Douye Diri, for joining us on the morning show.